In a world gone mad, only Andrew Tate and Ron Paul are the only ones making any sense whatsoever. Folks, Fernando doing our video for the More Survivalists, and we are going through pretty complicated times. All over the world, we're seeing democracies becoming more authoritarian. There is still hope. We just saw Argentina with a libertarian for the first time in history reaching the main office, becoming the president of Argentina, Javier Milei. We saw that in Holland there was a recent victory from the more conservative right-wing party, what the left likes calling the far right. Yes, extremists. Of course, anyone that is not a damn Marxist apparently is the far right these days. But my point is, there's still hope. But we have a responsibility. We have to call them out. We have to point out where they're manipulating, lying, and saying, no, that is bullshit. That is not true. You know it's not true. And you're pretending to be fooled, but you know exactly what's going on. Listen to what Andrew Tate told Piers Morgan.
I want to turn to the war between Israel and Hamas in Gaza. What is your view of this war?
I think when you call it a war, you're doing a disservice to the people who are having their limbs blown off by some of the most advanced technical weaponry on the planet. It is a genocide, and it is disgusting. And it doesn't matter which side of the political spectrum you fall on. When you observe a genocide in front of your very eyes, you should be disgusted.
Which side is waging genocide?
Which side? Really, Piers Morgan? You have to ask. You wonder which side is committing genocide right now. This is the kind of thing. I mean, I'm not a fan of Andrew Tate. I've actually done a video explaining how he has used women in very despicable fashions. And I get it that at some point, lots of these women like doing that. I mean, OnlyFans is a thing. It does exist. So that is certainly not. And this is the level of maturity I expect from my audience. That's why maybe I don't have a massive channel, but I expect my audience to have capacity of being critical thinkers. You have to be a critical thinker. You cannot just fall in love and align perfectly with pretty much anyone, because that means you have no opinion of your own, no matter who you're looking at. I mean, again, Andrew Tate is definitely not my cup of tea. Neither is Piers Morgan. Have I agreed with things that Piers Morgan may have said at some point in the many videos that he has? Yeah, I'm sure that something that he said was not complete bullshit. I mean, it is still Piers Morgan, so it is one of the most despicable talking heads in the media. And Andrew Tate is, well, you know what Andrew Tate is. I mean, I hope you do. But he's absolutely right about here. I mean, the man, I believe he is a Muslim, so he probably has that alignment. But he is not incorrect. There is one side committing genocide. It is being backed by the U.S. government. It is part of the policy of the U.S. government to have war and conflict in the Middle East. And the moment that shuts on one side, it has to be open on the other. But there is genocide being committed, and it is on the Palestinian people. I mean, you may like them more or less. I'm not a particular fan of the Islamic culture and the religion. I'm really not much of a religious person myself, even though I was brought up Catholic, and that's mostly the faith I align with to some extent. But you cannot deny when people are being blown to pieces. I will not show you some of the things I've been seeing lately because YouTube probably will ban me if I do. You can find a lot here. Let me put it this way. When you have problems finding a specific kind of kid that had its little legs blown up because there's so many of them that you have several videos popping up when you search that specifically, you know something is fucked up. This is not the 40 decapitated babies that never existed and was just part of the propaganda from the Israeli government and trying to justify a genocide that they have no way of justifying. No. This is real. When a 4-year-old, I have a 5-year-old child of my own, and watching a video of a 4-year-old baby crying and wanting to say that he wants to get up and walk, and his uncle has to tell him, no, you can't, sweetheart, because you no longer have legs. And you see, I mean, this is all in the hospital. He has no legs anymore. And when he says, where is mommy, where is daddy? And mommy and daddy have been blown up in yet another bombing of a refugee camp in which they were involved. And he survived that. And now he survived again, but now without legs. And you have not just one, you have two videos of two separate kids pretty much in that same situation. And God knows how many. Guys, it's thousands and thousands of little kids that they blew up with your weapons, with American-made weapons. They're blowing up innocent kids because that's what the military-industrial complex wants. U.S. is not real. The way I see it has, and this is something I've only recently understand. It hasn't been a democracy since they ended up with Kennedy. Kennedy was the last true president, the one that said, "Hey, wait a minute, what are we? No, that's okay." Okay, enough of you. And they ended that in a pretty brutal fashion in Texas. We're being ruled all over the world by the elite, by these groups of very specific interests that at times do nefarious things. I mean, let me just show you a man that I admire greatly. Again, I don't always agree, but listen to what Ron Paul was saying in 2009. Give me just a couple of minutes.
The gentlewoman from Florida is recognized.
Thank you,
3
Madam
minutes of your
Speaker.
time.
I'd like to yield 2 minutes to the gentleman from Texas, Dr. Paul.
The gentleman is recognized for 2 minutes.
Gentlelady for yielding, and I ask unanimous consent to revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection.
Madam Speaker, I rise in opposition to this resolution, not because I am taking sides and picking who the bad guys are and who the good guys are, but I'm looking at this more from the angle of being a United States citizen, an American, and I think resolutions like this really do us great harm. In many ways, what's happening in the Middle East, and in particular with Gaza right now, we have some moral responsibility for both sides in a way, because we provide help and funding for both Arab nations and Israel. And so we definitely have a moral responsibility, and especially now today, the weapons being used to kill so many Palestinians are American weapons, and American funds essentially are being used for this. But there's a political liability which I think is something that we fail to look at, because too often there's so much blowback from our intervention in areas that we shouldn't be involved in. You know, Hamas, if you look at the history, you'll find out that Hamas was encouraged and really started by Israel, because they wanted Hamas to counteract Yasser Arafat. And you say, well, yeah, that was better then and it served its purpose, but we didn't want Hamas to do this. So then we as Americans say, well, we have such a good system, we're going to impose this on the world. We're going to invade Iraq and teach people how to be Democrats. We want free elections. So we encourage the Palestinians to have a free election. They do, and they elect Hamas. So we first, indirectly and directly through Israel, help establish Hamas. Then we have election. Then Hamas becomes dominant, so we have to kill them. You know, it just doesn't make sense. During the 80s, you know, we were allied with Osama bin Laden. And we were contending with the Soviets. It was at that time our CAA thought it was good if we radicalized the Muslim world. So we financed the madrasa schools to radicalize the Muslims in order to compete with the Soviets. There's too much blowback. There's a lot of reasons why we should oppose this resolution. It is not in the interest of the United States. It's not in the interest of Israel either.
This man could have been president of the United States. Imagine the world, how much better it would have been in that case. This is from 2009, and even then, the same bullshit, the same lies of recognizing Israel's right to defend itself. This is not a war. You don't have a war when you have such a disparity of force. If I go with 5 other guys and beat up a couple of kids from kindergarten, that's not a fight. That's abuse. That is despicable. There's no war in Israel. The Gaza Strip is basically a huge prison camp. Those people have no way of fighting. The rockets being launched. I mean, It reminds me of my time in Northern Ireland, where every single fucking day, there was a bomb threat. Every day. Anyway, be a critical thinker. Think for yourself. Connect the dots. Understand what's going on here. You don't have a war when one side is a bunch of little kids blown to pieces and the other has one of the largest, most powerful military forces in the world. The appalling idea that a guy in a paraglide is an air attack is insulting to even the most idiotic mind in this planet, and yet that's something that they try to pull, and a lot of people actually fell for it. Yes, Palestine attacks Israel through air, ground, and sea. That was a fucking headline at its time. Folks, prepare for what's happening, because this just shows how bad things are in general. I strongly suggest you get Surviving the Economic Collapse and Street Survival Skills. My books available in Amazon, following the links there below. Take care.